Well, I think the other part of that power is obviously the quality of dialogue that we're participating in to actually shift the way that people are thinking. And I think one of the key elements of that shifting of people is the sense of what the future can be. Obviously, Senator Gravel referred to this Silk Road as the great project for the next century. You may or may not have this. Every one of you should, which is my plug for you to go back and buy one to help fund our activities so we can take power and get these ideas out. But this goes through the whole perspective, and I was somewhat had failed to mention earlier that Senator Gravel had also run for president in 2008. Maybe some of you have seen some of the video clips, but there was one point on the debate stage with all of the candidates, Hillary, Obama, where he it was on the question of nuclear warfare and the question of using nuclear weapons. He actually asked Obama who he was going to nuke. So fairly prophetically, that question remains. Now, I would say that we should do a swords into plowshare type moment. Take the nuclear weapons that Obama would use for Russia and China, and convert them into peaceful nuclear explosives, which could be used to build the Kra Canal. And that was actually an idea that Edward Teller had, and Dr. Chang will touch on elements of the Kra Canal, I believe. Yeah. So anyway, so before we get to Dr. Chang, I, just having seen him over the years, have been surprised, or maybe not surprised isn't the right word, but I've been impressed with the variety of things that he wants to tackle. And I just happened to be looking at his biography, or his curriculum vitae, or however you call it, and found out that Dr. Chang, in addition to being a world-renowned hydrologist, involved in sediment issues and has a computer program to model sediment, and has worked on the Three Gorges Dam, among other things. The list could go on. I also found out that Dr. Chang was an associate fellow back in the day, for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and received an award for his outstanding contribution to aerospace engineering for research achievements in fluid dynamics and aerodynamics. So I think that's interesting, at least. So, without further ado, Dr. Howard Chang.
Well, after listening to Senator Gravel, that's certainly encouraging and also very inspiring. This Eurasian economic development and the Silk Road, he did mention Silk Road will be the most important project for the 21st century. That everything is connected with the economic development for Eurasia, which of course is linked to the entire world. Well, Silk Road is the land bridge between Asia and Europe. I want to talk about there's also a sea bridge. The sea route. Sea route is the connection between Asia and Europe. It does go through Suez Canal. Suez Canal is over there. It starts from Japan, going through the Pacific Islands, going through the Chinese coast, going through Indonesia, then going through the Indian Ocean. That is the sea route. That is a vital link because the traffic, the traffic going through Malacca Strait, that is a very narrow street. That track volume is more than twice the combined track volume, Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. There's so much traffic going through the strait because there's so much shipping going through East Asia, Japan and China combined. Therefore, it becomes very important to improve the transportation and perhaps making that thing shorter and more economical. A very logical thing which was initially envisioned, including Mr. LaRoche, the Kra Canal. Kra Canal is cut through the neck of Malaysia Peninsula. See, right now the routes, you have to go around Malaysia, go through the Malacca Canal, or going through Indonesia. These routes are much longer. These routes can definitely be shortened if we cut a canal at Kra Canal to shorten the route. Well, that's not only improve the transportation, but also relieve the traffic jam going through Malacca Canal. Now, that has been envisioned. Now, recently I heard some news saying there could well be some development in the near future. I understand the Chinese government is considering somehow starting the project. I do not know the time span. This is the initial stage. It looks like something may be happening. Oh, that's very good news, right? Okay, next one, please. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a look. The details going through this area. This is the route going through the Malacca Canal, going through Singapore. You know, the most important industry for Singapore is the shipping. Now, the traffic volume, once again, the traffic volume going through the narrow strait is more than twice the combined traffic volume for Panama Canal and the Suez Canal. Okay, that Kra Canal going through the narrow part, by the way, that one is a very interesting canal. Senator Graville pointed out to me from the very initial stage, he initiated and proposed the sea level canal. They're going to cut very deep through the hills. Now, fortunately, excavation is not, it is feasible. It is feasible. You know, cutting through Panama Canal to sea level, no, it's almost impossible for those of you who have traveled through Panama Canal. But it would be possible to cut sea level canal through Kra Canal right here. Okay, next one. Well, let's see. Let's take a look. I mentioned about traffic jam, congestion, and obstruction of the strait can dramatically increase the cost of trade. Well, let's look at the traffic volume. 200,000 ships annually. This statistic is not up to date. That volume may have doubled already, so they feel the pain going through Malacca Canal at this point in time. There is some urgency of relieving the traffic, and thereby, of course, by cutting the Kra Canal. By the way, as I mentioned before, now Mr. LaRoche, of course, is one of the promoters. Well, Senator Graville is also one of the promoters for this canal. Okay. And they all happen to be involved with our current discussion. Yes, next. Let's see. The length, the strait of Malacca Strait is 1,000 kilometers. Well, the interesting thing is that strait could be as narrow as 2.5 kilometers, 1.6 miles. That's a very narrow strait. That's why we could have traffic jam. Okay, and not quite like the traffic in Los Angeles, but it's a. By the way, this strait has sometimes the depth can be fairly shallow. We have those super tankers. They requires very deep draft. The shallowest point is only 25 meters. Okay, so we do have a lot of constraints with the current situation. Now it is heavily used by oil tankers and bulk carriers, and 80% of Japan's oil supplies. Well, Japan, this is actually Japan's lifeline. You know, Japan does not produce any energy domestically. It imports its energy, it's oil basically from the Middle East. Now, what about China? China also imports oil from the Middle East. But now China imports a lot of oil, and actually more oil from Russia than from Saudi Arabia. Well, there's some politics involved in that. First of all, Russia needs the foreign reserve. Secondly, now watch out for this point. Secondly, China, Russia now trade in their own currency. You are aware of the agreement between U.S. and Saudi Arabia, reached some decades ago, that says all foreign trade of oil must be calculated, must be based upon by using the dollar. That's why U.S. dollar is being held so strong. That's why every country trying to keep more dollar as their foreign reserve. Now that picture is being eroded because many countries have decided they're gonna try trade using their own currency. Okay, next one, please. Of course, for energy security, all the Eastern countries, of course, are very, very cautious about the situation. Well, so therefore, this is another motivation. This is another reason for constructing the Kra Canal. Let's see, the Chinese plan talking about employing something like 30,000 workers and at a total cost between 20 and 25 billion American dollars. Well, you can multiply number by 2 by now because this number is not that current anymore. But see, therefore, that would solve the several problems, the employment problem. Now, we're really suffering right now because economic activities right now is slowing down right now. Many countries are concerned about their economic development directly tied to, of course, to the construction. This construction would help to relieve that employment problem. Well, let's take a look. Now, in addition to the canal itself for transportation, they're gonna have industrial zone at both ends of the canal, something like 100,000 acres of industrial zone. Now, it's also very beneficial for economic development. Well, let's see. Every project, there must be difficulties, there must be challenges. Well, sometimes certain things are very difficult to solve. One of the difficulties, now, used to be the opposition, very strong opposition of Great Britain and Singapore. Think about this. Singapore, the most important industry for Singapore is shipping. If they have to share the shipping with the Kra Canal, of course, their economy can suffer. However, in view of the very rapid increase in the traffic volume, their suffer may not be as bad as originally envisioned. And besides, industrial development, I'm sure Singapore will participate. They're going to play a very large role in the new industrial zone development. Singapore, is a highly advanced country, highly industrialized country, and so they will also get a lot of benefit during the construction, by the construction of the Kra Canal. Okay, next. Now we're going to shift. We'll make a small shift to a new subject. That's also related to the Eurasian economic development. Now we're going to move our focus to the subcontinent, that is India and Pakistan. I want to show this picture showing the annual precipitation of East Asia. The most important rain comes by the monsoon. This shows the rainfall distribution. Mean annual rainfall, the darker the color, the greater the rainfall. Now the monsoon, you know how important monsoon is? Monsoon actually feeds more than half of the total world population. Because these are population centers. From India to eastern China, it's all fed by the monsoon rains. The monsoon rains has its own characteristics. You got more rain in the spring, in the summer. You got much less rain in the winter, in the fall. There are advantages and disadvantages because the rainfall happens coincides with the growing season. Of course, that's very good for agriculture. However, rainfall distribution is distributed unevenly seasonally. It's distributed uneven spatially because certain places can receive a lot of rainfall. Other places can be very dry. Say, for example, this is the second most second largest desert in the world, the Gobi Desert. Now we have a lot of rain in this area. The area with the heaviest rain, most of the rain is in the Bangladesh and the eastern part of India. The rainfall distribution is not very uniform. Now, if the rainfall is not very uniform, we need the water transfer. We need the water diversion that would help the agriculture of areas with less rainfall. I want to especially point that out that Pakistan, look at Pakistan. Most Pakistan is desert. The part of Pakistan with a lot of rainfall is along the Himalayas. Okay, it's along the Himalayas. You know something else? This part between India and Pakistan is Kashmir. Both countries claim the entire Kashmir. Now, you could say the only water resource for Pakistan is the Indus River. And most of the water for Indus River comes from Kashmir. Comes from where? From the India-controlled Kashmir. So therefore, of course, Pakistan claims the entire, you know that conflict, since their independence, 1946, right? Oh, there was a lot of war. Today, the demarcation is the ceasefire line. Both countries claim the entirety of Kashmir. And most of the rainfall, okay, for most of the water for Indus River comes to this part of Kashmir that is India controlled. That is a potential for international conflict. That conflict can have very serious consequences. We're going to get back to that later. But we understand there's a very uneven water distribution in this part of Asia. And this part of Asia lives about half of the world population. Okay, now to alleviate this uneven distribution of rainfall and water, now China has taken some major steps with very beneficial consequence. Next one, please. I want to show you the population distribution. This is heavily populated, India and Pakistan. Notice a lot of people in Pakistan live in very desert region of Pakistan. A lot of people, well, most people live in China, live along the seaboard, eastern part of China. Now remember, southern part of China has a lot more rainfall. Northern part of China is fairly dry. China has successfully completed a major water diversion project from the south to the north. Yeah, next one. Okay, let's see. There are actually three major routes. The western route has not been started. It's a very difficult area. There's a center route, there's the eastern route. These two routes are near completion. That takes water from the Yangtze River to the northern part of China. Well, of course, the benefits are tremendous, but they have overcome all kinds of problems, of course. By the way, water diversion is one question. Water quality is another problem. They are spending something like $80 billion for the water diversion project. And 2/3 of the money is actually spending what? Not in construction, but in water quality improvement. They build a lot of wastewater treatment plants for the sake of improving the water quality. Well, you know how important water quality is because, you know, diseases such as cancer can be caused by water quality problems. We are paying a lot of attention nowadays to water quality problems. You heard about a story in Michigan, right? Yeah, that community in Michigan, that was a very big issue, national issue, because of water quality problem, the lead content, the heavy metal content. That was a big health problem. Okay, now next one. The success in China, that construction, tremendous construction. They built all kinds of structures to take water from the south to the north. Next one. The success in China has prompted India to take important measures, major measures, to redistribute the water for India, for water diversion. Remember, this is the area with the heaviest rainfall, where we receive a lot of water along the Himalayas. Why? Because Himalayas are so high, it's like a wall that stops all the moisture from going toward the north. North of the Himalayas, that's basically desert. The Tibet, it's like a desert. Very little rainfall. South of Himalayas, most of the rainfall is concentrated right along the Himalayas. Once again, I will point it out. If you look at Pakistan, here's Pakistan. Most of Pakistan is desert. The only water resource of Pakistan is what? Is the Indus River. Indus River, we're going to say that again. And most water for Indus River comes from rainfall in India-controlled Kashmir. Okay, right here, India-controlled Kashmir supplies the most water for the Indus River. That is the lifeline for Pakistan. But let's look at this. Let's look at this. Of course, water can always be diverted. We look at the benefit-cost ratio. If they do some construction, they're going to do a lot of hydraulic structures, or they're going to do a lot of construction to divert water. We want to look at the potential benefit. You're going to find out the potential benefit of India's projects, okay? Seems to me, now, by all measures, the benefit-cost ratio is much less than those projects in China because of geographical settings. You can divert water, but at a much larger cost. Because most of the water is concentrated in this area that flows directly into the ocean, Indian Ocean. Okay, so if you want to divert water, you have to take water from this area. Well, this area, they have a water demand along the Ganges River. When we study geography, Ganges River Valley is what? Is the breadbasket of the world. Because that area is the most productive with water, with a lot of water supply from the Himalayas, with the heat. Okay, you got an energy source, you got the water, this area becomes the most productive. However, they have a very, very population burden. They have to feed so many people. So they really feel the strain, they really feel the stress. Next one, please. Okay, let's look at the water. These rivers flows into other countries, into the Mekong River, which is in Vietnam, in Thailand, and also Burma. Now, this is the most important river that flows into Bangladesh and India, the Tambo River, which starts from Tibet. Well, most of the land is actually in Tibet. However, this area is very dry. The water of this river stretch is limited in quantity simply because the rainfall is very limited in this area. Most of the rainfalls occurs south of Himalayas. Most of the water received by the river is from this area south of Tibet, but inside of Bangladesh. It flows directly into the ocean. Next one. Okay, now once again, let's go to the Ganges River Valley. Himalayas is right here. The Ganges River is here. It's got so many tributaries. Oh, they all come from the Himalayas. Foothills from the Himalayas. That's most of the water input. You also get some water from the south, but that's a very small portion of the total water. Oh, as you get into Bangladesh, you have a heavy concentration, a lot of streams, because of the plentiful water supply. Next one. Well, let's go. Let's focus on Bangladesh. You look at the river system. There's so many rivers. So Bangladesh, you got so much water, but they also have a very large population. They have a great water demand. So if there's any water diversion for the Ganges River or from Tambo River away from Bangladesh would also be, adversely impacted. because they have to supply large population. Next one. Well, see, let's go back to look at the dense, the stream system inside the Bangladesh, because of the large amount of water. Large amount of water actually discharges into Bay of Bengal right here. Okay, next one. Now, if we move toward Tibet, that area is fairly dry. You see, you look at the streams, and you look at the landscape here, the arid landscape. You look at streams. The streams are very shallow in water depth, indicating a small water discharge. In fact, when I was out there some time ago, next one, I noticed that people trying to collect water. You see, they actually try to collect water from the roof. Rain on the roof flows into their yard. They are actually collected in an underground cell. That cell is actually used for water storage. That's how they collect water, because that area, the rainfall is so little. They have, of course, they are trying all means, trying just to store water and collect water. That is in sharp contrast to the lower region of the Tambo River. And Bangladesh, of course, has got so many streams, it has got so much rainfall, and so much water flowing into the Bay of Bengal. Next one. Okay, now, in view of the even distribution of water inside India, and India has envisioned a plan for water diversion, water redistribution. Again, that is more or less prompted by the successful water diversion projects inside China. Okay, let's see. India, the logical thing to do, of course, to transfer water, divert water from areas with a lot of rainfall to areas which has less rainfall. So they invested several. Okay, a south-north water transfer project. It's got two major components, actually three components. The national perspective comprised, starting in 1980, two main components. I'm going to add one more component. One is the Himalaya River development. That's where the most rainfall occurs. The other one is the Peninsula River development. Peninsula River development, of course, is south of the Ganges River. This one is a much greater scale than this one. So we're going to talk about the first component. We are going to skip the Peninsula River development for today. And there's also infrastructure component. Well, they added one more component, that is water transfer from one drainage system into another drainage system. That component is going to be a east-west transfer system. Next one, please. Let us now discuss the Himalaya River transfer system. Look, this is Himalayas. The red line here represents water diversion plan. Basically, divert water toward the dry area. Okay, across the Ganges River, and also toward the west, because the west area has much less rainfall. See, these are the very small drainage systems. Well, let me see. I did mention why these systems are not as cost effective as the Chinese systems. That's because each diversion system collects water from the Himalayas. Okay, the drainage basins are fairly small. Each system has a small drainage basin. Although the rainfall here is more, it does collect the water, and in order to go to the drier area, you have to cross the Ganges River to the south. We're talking about a longer distance. We are talking about a smaller amount of water to be transferred, to be diverted to a different area. But these are the basic systems for the Himalaya system. Okay, let's take a look. Now, this is the peninsula component. We're going to skip this one because each one is fairly uh, smaller than the other one. Yes. Okay, this one, uh, you can see so many dams. They built so many small dams, collect water, and trying to send water toward the west. This is going to cross several streams, going to cross so many drainage basins, going from the east toward the west. This one perhaps is the most important water transfer system. You notice this is the capital of India, New Delhi, right there. New Delhi is also located in an area of limited rainfall. And that area, the city has really grown. They have a great demand for water. Next one, please. Okay, this is the complete system. Now you can see water is collected and stored in the small reservoirs and the dams, and is transferred across the valleys, across the several streams, going all the way toward the west, because this area is drier and collects less rainfall. Next one, please. Well, the side effects. Challenges. Such an enormous project, many challenges, many difficulties to overcome. There's the one component, political component. We all know India is the largest democracy in the world. Because of that, sometimes the public works becomes very difficult, perhaps even more difficult. You know that they are trying to build roads. They found out roads, part of infrastructure. They found out it takes a lot of time to build roads. They have to move people, relocate people, right? The right of way, to gain the right of way, they found that's very difficult. The same thing happens to water transfer project. They have to solve the political problem. And since it's a democracy, and everything takes a lot of time. Yeah, next one, please. And the second challenge is the cost. Their conservative estimate total cost is something like 168 billion. 168 billion. That's a lot of money. Land acquisition, construction, and resettlement of people. In fact, resettlement people could be the most expensive item in the total budget. Okay, because construction cost, engineering challenge, building large dams and canals, the government would need to compensate as many as 5.5 million displaced people for loss of land and the livelihood. That's a lot of people to be resettled. Now, when China built the Three Gorges Dam, okay, the cost was something like $20 billion. That's much less than the cost for this water transfer system. Now, Three Gorges Dam, the construction of that requires the resettlement of 1.2 million people. And this one requires resettlement of 5.5 million people. That's why this project is a much more expensive project. That's why I mentioned earlier, the benefit-cost ratio, okay, is not as good as the Chinese water diversion project. However, they still have to do it because there's not that much choice. Because we cannot live without water for 24 hours a day. Water is so vital, right? Okay, let's see. But they will solve the problem. They will solve the problem. Okay? Well, and also, what's going on inside China? What's going on inside Tibet right now? China is building a series of dams inside Tibet. Even though the water inside the river inside Tibet has limited the discharge, but a series of dams constructed, it still has an impact on the downstream countries, including India and Bangladesh. That's another challenge they have to face. There has to be an international agreement. You know the Colorado River flows into, well, inside the United States. Colorado River drains into Mexico, drains into Sea of Cortez. Now, we use most of the water when you cross the international border into Mexico. Colorado River becomes a trickle. Now, in the olden days, there was navigation in the Colorado River. Yuma was a river town. Today, there's no water at Yuma, going through Yuma. Now, but there's the water law. Who owns the water? United States or Mexico, right? But of course, that has been settled a long, long time ago. I don't know the water, know how that works. But the United States uses the most of the water. By international law, there's a minimum release of water from the United States inside toward Mexico. So Mexico can still grow a lot of crops in that area, south of, inside its own territory. So they have to solve that problem. They have to solve this international potential conflict problem. Now, there's also potential conflict between India and Bangladesh. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, so next one. Himalaya Basin, of course. There are other countries as well. There's what? There's Nepal and Bhutan. They are also worried because if India builds dam to capture water, okay, that affects the water inflow into those rivers, into those countries, there's also potential conflict. There has to be some kind of international agreement of India with all the neighboring countries on the distribution of water. Okay, that's another challenge, another difficulty for the India government to solve. Next one, please. Well, and also transfer between India and Bangladesh. There's also, there's also, I don't know where the agreement stands right now, but they are working in that direction. Next one, please. Okay, next one, please. Next one. Okay, now this is very important. I want to come back to this again between India and Pakistan. As you know, the Indus River is just about the only water resource for Pakistan, which has a huge population, way over 100 million. And much of Pakistan is in the desert. Now, the rainfall for the Indus River is mostly inside Kashmir, inside India-controlled Kashmir. There has been agreement, international agreement. Now, India has control of these three rivers, which is outside Kashmir. But Pakistan right now has control of the other rivers inside India-controlled Kashmir. Okay, that agreement has been reached for a few decades, has been going on smoothly, but there's a potential problem because this country sometimes was at war because of the dispute over the sovereignty of Kashmir. Well, in fact, it happens from time to time. There's a potential international conflict. Next one, please. Yeah, they signed a treaty. Indus Water Treaty is a water distribution treaty between India and Pakistan, and brokered by the World Bank, right? The treaty was signed in Karachi, Pakistan, on September 19, 1960, by Indian Prime Minister Nehru and the President of Pakistan, Chang. Okay, according to this agreement, control of the three eastern, well, I just mentioned this already. Next one, please. So there's an agreement, and both countries are desperate for water, especially Pakistan, because that's Pakistan's lifeline. This shows the Indus River inside Pakistan. You see how arid that area is? And this is the lifeline for sure for Pakistan. Next. I think this picture gives you a better picture. This is back at the Indus River Valley. Most of the rainfall is inside this part, right out of the Himalayas. And the most rainfall is in India controlled Kashmir. By the time the river reaches the plain area of that's where most agriculture takes place. And you can see how dry the river is because a single stream by the time it reaches the sea. Okay, next one, please. Now this also shows the picture. Shows these rivers, these tributaries, upper tributaries of Indus River, and then the desert area. The southern part of Pakistan is all desert, very desert. So that shows how important this river is as the only water source for the country of Pakistan. This is area, a potential area for international conflict. I want to mention another thing. There's another area which has the potential for international conflict. That's between Iraq and Turkey. You know, Iraq is fed by two rivers, Euphrates and the Tigris. The Crescent Valley, where ancient civilization occurred because of the two rivers, Euphrates and Tigris. And Iraq itself is like a desert. So the water supply is from these two rivers. These two rivers starts from Turkey. That's where the most rainfall occurs. Turkey has completed two major reservoirs, major dams inside Turkey. So Turkey has the control of the water source for Iraq. They must have watched out some kind of a conflict. But you know, that area, there are still a lot of unknowns. I hope everything evolves in the right direction so that we can all live in peace. That's all I have to say for today.